This is my review for Deep Blue Sea, a 1999 film which I recently read described as the next best shark film after Jaws. But as to whether I think that's the case, I'll let you know in a little while. But first, the story. This takes place on an aquatic research facility out in the middle of the sea somewhere, where a group of scientists are putting the finishing touches on a cure for Alzheimer's. But part of the process involves inflating shark brains to a really big size so that a certain protein can be extracted for the cure. I mean, science is not my strong suit, but this is made up science anyway, so I don't need to know how it works, but just the end result is the fact that we get these sharks with brains like Stephen Hawking's, which is obviously a big problem for the characters in the movie. Now, this was directed by Renny Harlin. I recently reviewed another film of his, Nightmare on Elm Street 4. The timing is coincidental. I'm not on some kind of Renny Harlin season or anything like that, but he is a director I really respect. I loved Die Hard 2 and Cliffhanger back in the day. Nightmare 4 is a really good film, and I really enjoyed Deep Blue Sea back when I first saw it. I saw it twice in succession not long after it came out, and my memories of the film were such that when I recently did my top 100 horror films of all time ranking, I put this film around 45, something like that. But after this rewatch, I have to say I think I made a mistake, because I don't think the film is anywhere near as good as I remembered. It has a number of flaws that I certainly didn't remember. And I think the next time I do my top 100 horror films list, Deep Blue Sea may have to be removed. So let's start with the negatives today, and I'll tell you what I don't like about the film. Let's begin with the series of unfortunate events which lead to the sharks getting out, because there are so many unlucky things which need to happen in order for this film to get going that it does stretch believability somewhat. So, number one, nobody in this film seems to have a mobile phone or a satellite phone. Now, this film came out in '99. I got my first mobile in the summer of '98. I mean, it was a brick, and the aerial was so long I probably could have used it as a weapon against a shark, actually. But I was just a skint school kid. All these scientists are presumably quite well off. They've got all the latest tech anyway, so why nobody's got a phone, I'm not sure. There's no phone on any of the levels of the facility. There's no computers or laptops to send messages out. All they've got is a radio tower out on the surface. None of the characters at any point ask any of the other characters if they have any phones or anything like that. So it's kind of weird. It's almost as if the film was written in the early 90s and it just took years and years to get made. I'm not sure. Number two, and I'm going into spoiler territory a little bit here, but before any of the sharks eat anyone, there's an accident in the lab, which means one of the scientists needs to get airlifted to safety. So a helicopter arrives and they put this guy on a stretcher, and then the helicopter tries to winch the stretcher up, but the winch goes wrong, and instead of winching him up, it goes the other way and drops the guy into the water, at which point the shark grabs hold of the stretcher and starts to pull the helicopter into the buildings, and explosions happen and blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, that's my number two, the winch unluckily going wrong. Number three, once the guys in the helicopter realise that the winch has malfunctioned, they can't unhook the thing to get themselves free. That doesn't make any sense. You would think that if something goes wrong with that wire, that stretcher, they need to be able to unhook it, but they can't for whatever reason. Number four, the sharks just happen to drag the helicopter into the radio tower, which blows out all the communications. Of all the directions they could have chosen, I mean, I'm not buying that their brains are so large at this point that they instinctively know which of the buildings have all the radio equipment in at all, so that's really unlucky. Number five, all the main characters seem to come up to the surface to help attach the stretcher to the winch, and then the shit hits the fan 60 seconds later. But in that little window of time, about 60 seconds, all the characters then run back down to the lab at the bottom of the facility, so they're conveniently in place for when their Poseidon adventure back up to the top starts to happen. But why go all the way back down to the lab when the experiment's done by this point? If even just one or two of them had remained near the surface, then all this mess could have been avoided. So yeah, on the whole, so many things have to go wrong. I think it might have been better if human sabotage had started all this, you know, maybe insert a kind of Michael Biehn character from The Abyss, but I don't know. And on a slightly related subject, but not quite, the way that the helicopter goes into the radio tower, the two pilots just sit there and take it like this. None of them try and jump out, why not? And the woman in the radio tower as well, who the helicopter's hitting, she just sits there and goes, I mean, if I'm sat there and I see a helicopter about to explode into my radio tower, I'm out of there. I'm down the stairs. So what this woman's thinking just sitting there, I don't know. The personalities of the main characters are a bit problematic. I mean, the supporting cast are okay. Samuel L. Jackson is very watchable, as he always is. His dialogue's maybe not as funny as it is in some of his Tarantino films, but you wouldn't expect it to be. The film certainly suffers when he departs. I get what they were going for there, killing him off early, give the audience a big surprise, but I just think maybe they picked the wrong film to try that. LL Cool J is very good as well. He plays a character similar to the one he played in Halloween H2O, which came out a year before this film, in that he's constantly on the periphery. You think he's going to die at any given moment, but somehow he doesn't. It's like he had it written into his contracts for some of these early films that he wasn't going to die, but I'm not complaining because he's extremely entertaining. Michael Rappaport is in the film, Stellan Skarsgård. It's quite a deep cast in terms of people that you'll remember, but when the problems come, it's with the two leads, played by Saffron Burrows and Thomas Jane, especially Saffron Burrows. This is not an actress I've seen in anything apart from this, but I'm not surprised that she didn't go on to be a megastar after Deep Blue Sea. She can act and she's good looking, but she just doesn't project any warmth when she's speaking. I think it might have been better if she'd have swapped places with the blonde actress in this film, because she was a bit more bubbly. She reminded me of the lead from Jaws 3 a little bit. Thomas Jane is someone I enjoyed watching in Land of the Dead, but here they've tried to make him a bit like Steve McQueen's character in The Towering Inferno, kind of a glum anti-hero, but it took me a long time to warm up to him in this film. Probably not until the third act did I like him in any way. If he'd have been in Deep Blue Sea 2 and 3, I might have really grown to like him with a bit more character development, but I've not seen those films, and having checked the cast lists for them, he's not in them, so I've got to mention this relatively early scene where the guy on the stretcher, one of the sharks throws him into this underwater glass window thing, and then cracks start to spread on it and eventually implodes and the facility starts to flood from the ground up. Now, all the characters clearly see the stretcher being hurtled towards this window. Now, if that had been me, I'd have been out of there like a hare. But they all just stand there and gawp like this. And then eventually the stretcher hits the glass and cracks start to spread, and they still stand there like... And eventually Samuel L. Jackson finally reacts and starts going, don't you think we should back up a bit? And then they finally turn tail and run just as the glass implodes. But if they'd have reacted when I would have reacted, nobody would have even got wet. But as it is, they've got to swim in this huge current, fight for their lives, and they only just make it to the exit somewhere at the top of the stairs. But it's crazy how long they stand and gawp at this glass when it's clearly going to break. It's just so badly filmed. On the whole, though, it is still a fun film, but you can only really watch it once, because once you know the order of the deaths, it's not a fun journey to revisit. That's the trouble with it. But I still remember how exciting it was to watch the first time around. There are a few good set pieces. So I like the one where LL Cool J gets trapped in the oven, and then he gets out, gets past the shark, and then it's almost like a John Woo moment. He throws the lighter, and there's a big explosion. There's a good sequence as well in the shaft where this blonde woman sort of falls off the ladder. That whole bit was really exciting. Yeah, a lot of fun on the whole, but you, like I said, you can't really revisit it. It's that sort of film. I will give some extra credit for the special effects. This was a big budget film at the time it came out. I think lower budget films nowadays can compete with Deep Blue Sea on an even keel almost when it comes to shark CGI, but that shouldn't diminish what Renny Harlin's film did at the time. Now, I'll quickly show you the box set I have for this. I invested in a 3-film collection of the entire series. I don't think there's anything special about the release. I think they've just packaged up the individual films into one slipcover, but it cost me £18 for all 3 doing it this way. I think if I'd have bought them individually, it might have cost me £9 or £10 each, but obviously I'm fully committed, therefore, to watching and reviewing all 3, even though I didn't necessarily enjoy rewatching the first one, but I might enjoy 2 and 3 more, given the fact I've not seen those before. But to answer the question that I posed at the beginning of the review, no, I don't think that this is the next best shark film after Jaws. I just don't. Right, let's get to the bag of terror then and find out what sort of score we've got for Deep Blue Sea. 1, 2, 2.5 out of 5. So that's an average score. Not brilliant, not crap. At the time that I first saw this, I might have given it 3.5, 4. I'm speaking as someone who's had to rewatch it, and I just don't think it's that rewatchable a film. It's very much a one and done sort of thrill ride, if you like. Right, that's all for today. I'll see you next time. Take care. Bye bye.